for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
Giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K is the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. With Tony Marinaro.
55 seconds left in the penalty, a minute and 27 seconds left in regulation time. Boston 4, Montreal 3. Lafleur coming out rather gingerly on the right side. He gives it into Lemaire, back to Lafleur. Oh!
The sickest Montreal Canadiens podcast.
You're in the ball!
Sports entertainment like no other.
Rejoint, on lui fait perdre la rondelle, une passe devant. Et c'est le dégagement et ce sera la victoire des Canadiens. Stanley pour les Canadiens, le 23e de l'histoire.
You found the dogs! John, you found the dogs! He found the dogs! And all together, they worked a young team to the top. And now, a 24th Stanley Cup banner will hang from the rafters of the famous Forum in Montreal. The Canadiens win the Stanley Cup!
Brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Driven to be different. La Vida Tibi. Embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination. It's gonna be sick.
Marinaro on this Thursday, February 27. The Montreal Canadiens going up against the San Jose Sharks. The Canadiens going up against a team that they should beat tonight, a San Jose Sharks team that had lost 15 of their last 17 hockey games, but a San Jose Sharks team that just continues to beat the Montreal Canadiens in Montreal and has for many, 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 many years. In the end, it wasn't easy, but the Montreal Canadiens were able to get it done by a score of 4-3 in overtime on what was an absolutely beautiful individual effort by Cole Caufield with the game-winning goal. It was unbelievable. The Sick Podcast is brought to you in part by Fruiterie de l'Art tonight, a family-run business, a mainstay in the LaSalle community since 1995. They're proud to continue offering the same fresh foods and flavors they have for the past 30 years. From fresh fruits and produce delivered daily, an ever-expanding assortment of deli meats, cheeses, sandwiches. You'll find personalized service from Tasso, his son, and their staff, and friendly faces that make you feel like family. You know, you go there, their staff has been working there for the last 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 years, and that's a sign that they run a great business. They're friendly, and it makes you feel pretty good when you walk in there and everyone knows you by your first name. It's Fruiterie de l'Art, and I can guarantee you that I drop by every Saturday morning and have probably for the last 30 years. Without further ado, to talk about this huge Montreal Canadiens win, it's now time for the McGuire Report with Pierre McGuire.
The McGuire Report. Presented by Vago Italian.
That is right. The McGuire Report presented by Restaurant Vago and Restaurant Vago. Vago combines old world classics, new Italian dishes for over 23 years, private dining rooms, any occasion, open Monday to Saturday evening and lunch from Tuesday to Friday, located at 1336 Green Avenue in Westmount, corner de Maisonneuve. For reservations, call 514-846-1414. If you see Tommaso at the door or Angelo who come out of the kitchen, those are friends of mine. They're friends of Pierre McGuire's, of course. Who is it at the end of the day? Pierre, how are you?
I'm excellent, and I'm going to be at Vago next week, Tony, before I have to go back and do a college playoff series down at Ithaca, New York. That being said, it's so nice to visit with you. I think you would agree with me. The win is great. The Cole Caufield goal is magical. Nick Suzuki, Slafkovsky, Caufield, tremendous game. I think you would agree. But this is not a game where you'd say huge amount of artistic impression. I think you would agree with that.
Yeah, you know, I'm sure Marty St. Louis is happy, and he'll worry about tomorrow and stuff like that. He'll go home now, and he'll be happy they won the game. But tomorrow he's going to get to work, I'm sure, and he's going to say to his guys, okay, guys, we got to get back to work, because if we play like we did versus the San Jose Sharks, we're not going to be able to get in. They are in the mix. They want to get in. We're going to talk about where they are in the standings in just a couple of minutes, because, of course, there's a bunch of games that are still going on in the National Hockey League that are not finals just yet. What we will tell you, of course, is that Tampa Bay won 3-0 over Calgary. Florida won 4-3 over Edmonton. Washington lost 5-2 to St. Louis. Carolina beat Buffalo by a score of 5-2. Those are some games that
What was Columbus, Tony? Columbus?
Yeah, the Columbus Blue Jackets won their game tonight, and we'll get to that in just a second. They beat Detroit by a score of 5-2. That was a big game, obviously. You know, the good news in all of this, I guess, is that, for example, Columbus beats Detroit. Detroit doesn't pick up any points. That's important. You know, the Washington Capitals lose, mind you, they're well on their way. There's other games that are not finals just yet. Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, I think, are about 30 seconds away from going into overtime. That's not good. That, of course, both teams are going to pick up a point, but we'll get to the standings a little bit later on, Pierre. Without further ado, why don't I bring up the Montreal Canadiens lineup for tonight's game? And there you have it. The lineup, of course, is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group. Energy Transportation Group, a leading full-service logistics provider, serving all of North America, driven to be different. They are a top fleet employer in Canada. They've been there on Forbes' list for many, many years, and we're happy to have them as a partner. Suzuki with Slafkovsky and Caufield, Beck with Liney and Newhook, Dvorak with Gallagher and Anderson, Evans with Armia and Heineman. On defense, Hutson, Struble, Matheson, Carrier, Jacki, Savard, Montembeault. Pierre, for a while there was a worry that Josh Anderson was not going to play. He went face first into the boards last game, and he's been having therapy days for the last 2 months, but you got to give Josh a lot of credit. Even tonight, you know, banged up again, boom, back into the boards again. It looked like he was really, really laboring. It looked like he was in pain. For all the things we said about Josh Anderson last year, Pierre, we were a little bit disappointed with, you know, the pride or lack thereof in his game, or maybe it's just one of those years where nothing was going his way. This man came to play this year, Pierre. This man he's working, he's sacrificing, he's suffering, he's protecting his teammates. He stood up to Jacob Trouba, defending one of his teammates. He stood up to Tom Wilson. He hasn't backed down from anything. I think he deserves a lot of credit, Pierre. It doesn't show up in the score sheet all the time, but he deserves a lot of credit.
I'm so happy you're saying that, because it's so easy to pick out somebody's flaws. It's not easy to always give them credit. This is a man that's recreated his identity. He's accepted the role that the coaches have created for him. They want him to be playing big. He is playing big. They want him to be good on the forecheck. He has been good on the forecheck. They created a penalty killing situation for him. He's been very good in penalty killing situations. You talked about the hellacious fights he had with Trouba in New York and Tommy Wilson in Washington. He didn't fight those on home ice. He fought those on the road. Two difficult buildings to get involved in big jousts with big players, and he did it both times. And it almost was like he did it with pleasure. He did it with pleasure. He enjoyed it. I'm really happy for him. I think he's resuscitated his career. Hopefully he's resuscitated his career in Montreal, and it will last for a while. But this is an important player, Tony, especially when you get to, if they ever got into a playoff situation, it'd be hugely important to have a player like that on your roster.
Pierre, we talked about the fact it wasn't a perfect game for the Montreal Canadiens. I mean, with the puck, they did a lot of good things. Without the puck, there were some mistakes in this hockey game, and some mistakes for San Jose, some mistakes for the Montreal Canadiens. But for a second straight game, Owen Beck is in between Newhook and Liney. Once again, it wasn't perfect, Pierre, because they were on the ice for a goal against, and sometimes they were trying to find themselves. But Owen Beck takes 6 faceoffs. He wins 3, loses 3. He's at 50%. He's got a couple of shots on goal. He's got an
assist.
He's got a couple of hits. He's got an assist in the hockey game. Liney's got an assist. Alex Newhook ends up scoring what was the equalizer to tie it at 3 in period number 3. Once again, Owen Beck making a statement that I'm not an American Hockey League player. I'm an NHL player. I've arrived.
We've talked about that on this show numerous times. Here's the rub. He's not physically mature yet. He will be, and this is really important that he's getting a taste, but let's see him grind it out now for 10 to 12 games in a row. At this level, he can do that in the American League. He's already established that. He could definitely do it in the Ontario Hockey League. Everybody knows that. So now he's got to do it in this league. I still think there's a maturation process he has to go through physically. He's not an overly large person, but I think he's getting there. But what he has that can definitely allow him to stay at this level for a long time, he's got amazing hockey sense, and he does have a grit factor to him. It's huge. Those 2 things are huge.
You and I are very much on the same page most of the time. I'm not so sure we have been with Kirby Dach. His hockey sense, Pierre, I don't quite see it. His work ethic and his commitment, I don't think it's where it needs to be for a player that has to play such an important position of center, a 200-foot game. His commitment to getting better on faceoffs, it hasn't got better. I see Beck, Pierre. I see a centerman. I don't know if he's going to be a second-line center in the National Hockey League. I don't know if he's going to be a third-line center in the National Hockey League. My guess is that he's going to be a third, but heck, you know what? I probably don't have the qualifications for that. But having said that, Pierre, I'm still not sold that Kirby Dach's a centerman, and I think tonight on February 27, I'm not so sure the Montreal Canadiens are either, Pierre.
I think we've talked about this a little bit, though, whereas he didn't get brought here to be a second-line winger, and he didn't get brought here to be a third-line center. He was brought to Montreal to be a second-line center and insulate Nick Suzuki, and he has not done that in the way that a lot of people thought he would, including the Montreal Canadiens management team that brought him here in a substantial trade. Now, to be fair, at the start of the year, he's overcoming a pretty significant injury from last year. So everything you're saying, I'm agreeing with you. Just to go another step further, I haven't seen the player that could be a second-line center. I'll give you an example, Tony. When you win the Stanley Cup, here are your first two centers, Peter Forsberg, Joe Sakic. When you win the Stanley Cup, here are your first two centers, Mario Lemieux and Ronnie Francis. Like, go look at over time. I think I've told you this before. Scotty and I created a thing called a 7-player profile. And if you don't have 2 elite centermen, you can't win. Do I think Suzuki could be part of that profile right now? The answer is yes, I do. Do I think Kirby Dach can? No, I don't.
And winning the Stanley Cup, like you just said, is not an easy thing, because I saw a team with 3 elite centermen, Matthews, Tavares, and O'Reilly, and they didn't win it. But I will agree with you on this, is that out of all the things you need to have, you need to have a lot of things to win a Stanley Cup. But if you don't have 2 centermen, forget about it. If you don't have...
They have to be elite. They can't. Yeah. They can't be middle of the road. I think you would agree. Nick Suzuki's playing his way into. He's not at elite yet, but he's playing his way to that level. That's significant. Remember, he wasn't drafted by the team. He came in a trade for Pacioretty. I mean, yeah. So you look at it. This is a player that's trending the right way.
He was unbelievable again tonight, though. That's
what I'm saying. Like, come on. So they're figuring this out. The power forward part, I think, can be figured out by Slafkovsky. The specialist forward, which is part of the 7-player profile, I think Cole Caufield might be able to be that guy. Maybe Owen Beck could be that guy. But Jake Evans is that guy right now. He's the specialist forward that you have to have, whether it's penalty killing, power play, whatever. You need an elite shutdown defenseman. I'm not sure they have that right now. And you need to have an elite puck-moving defenseman. And they do have that right now in Lane Hutson. Yeah. So they're getting to where now – the conundrum for them.
So you're not sure, pardon me, that Caden Gooley could be an elite shutdown defenseman?
Not at that size. I think he can be a support player. He can make that position redundant. You know what I think of Caden. I was bragging about Caden when they drafted him. It's just when you're the elite shutdown guy, you're a big body. You're Scott Stevens. You're Kenny Danico. You're Hal Gill. like those are shutdown guys. They're not fancy guys. They're not fancy guys. You got to have those guys. I can tell you this right now. Since they put the salary cap in play in the National Hockey League, right after the 04-05 lockout season, every team that's won the cup, you can go look at it, hits the profile. They hit the profile, every single one of them that's won the cup.
Can you name me a 6'3", 6'4" defenseman, big, rugged, strong, defensive, that could fit that profile, that could be available?
No, but I can tell you last year, the team that won the cup had a player named Aaron Ekblad. That's part of the profile.
They drafted that player, I think first overall, if I'm not mistaken.
They don't give those guys away. This is my point.
Yeah. They had one in Victor Hedman. They drafted him second overall.
They still have it, but he's drafted second overall. So that's Ekblad was number 1 overall. I had Christopher Pronger at 2 overall, and he ended up being part of a Stanley Cup team and played in 3 final. So those guys, they're hard to find. You really got to find them. They're important guys.
Can Seth Jones be a guy like that? He makes a lot of money. I know.
No, Tony, I don't think he's an elite shutdown guy. What I think he's a puck transporter. So if I could do it, let's just say he was playing in the 3-hole. Let's say he was playing in the 2-hole. You could get by, but you'd have to have other guys around. I don't think he's going to be that marquee number 1 guy that can be your elite shutdown guy.
Mm-hmm. I don't know if he's a number 1 guy, but I like Parayko. I mean, he's not going anywhere. I get it, but
Cole's not going. Colton can So Colton's part of a Stanley Cup winning team. On
Yes.
that team, Alex Pietrangelo in 2019,
Of course.
he was the go-to guy. But the second guy, which made it redundant, was Colton Parayko, and it's a great call by you. Totally great call.
And speaking of the St. Louis Blues, and you've brought this up before, you said to me at one point, if Ryan O'Reilly gets traded, look for Toronto and look for Craig Berube. Now, there's talk of Braden Shen getting traded, and guess who the front runner reportedly is? It's the Toronto Maple Leafs. And by the way, Pierre LeBrun earlier tonight on RDS talked about Armia and Evans. It's something that we're going to bring up, and the interest around the league, which teams he's hearing and why. And we're going to get to that a little bit later. But before we get to anything, let's get to the score sheet if we can.
Mm-hmm.
And the score sheet is brought to you by Playground, giving away over $120,000 in cash prizes this February at their cash game poker tables. 7 days a week, 5 nights a week. Go and play anytime from 9:30 to 2, or enjoy the late night games from 9:30 p.m. to 2 a.m. for a chance to win. Payouts every 30 minutes. Get in on the action at Playground. Visit playground.ca for details. Pierre, the first goal of the game by Zetterlund, Struble and Caufield go to Will Smith behind the net. He feeds Zetterlund in front, and Lane Hutson just can't tie him up in time. The San Jose Sharks tonight did the same play very often in the game where the guy, by the way, and it didn't happen on this play, but the guy would go to swing behind the net, and right before he gets behind the net, they throw it in front, and someone's coming in backdoor and trying to jam it in. But they had a lot of guys around the crease. They had a lot of guys there, and they were trying to get their sticks on pucks. So they open up the scoring. And then the Canadiens equalizer, Pierre. Tell me what you saw from that goal, because I want to see if we saw the same thing, because I saw something that didn't get I'm taking a look at social media here. I'm not seeing it anywhere. There's something that doesn't get talked about on this play. Let's see if we're on the same page. The Suzuki goal, the first goal of the game. No, you know what? We should be showing it. All right, okay. We don't have the video, but so I'll just give it away then.
Yep.
Suzuki and Caufield going a 2-on-1, Pierre.
Yep.
The play happens because Juraj Slafkovsky sticks out his stick in the defensive zone at the blue line, and causes a turnover, and it goes the other way. No one's going to talk about Slafkovsky because he's behind in the play, and it's Caufield to Suzuki on a 2-on-1. But Pierre, it starts with Slafkovsky.
But well, we've talked about that a lot. So part of it is you got to be responsible defensively, number one. Number two, the linesman clearly saw it because they gave him an assist. They went to the referee and said, hey, this guy made a play. Number three is when he's moving his feet and he's not reaching, he's a lot better than when he's standing still and reaching. And I think he's been so much better since the break's been over. I don't know if you agree with me or not, but he's been a ton better. In terms of, let's go to the first point. You were talking about San Jose at the beginning.
Yeah.
So they were cycling the net. They created a lot of their opportunities creating around the net because of the way Montreal plays with their end zone coverage. And also Montreal doesn't have an elite shutdown guy. So they call it a reference point, and the reference point is the net. Try to get the puck behind the net and break them down with their end zone coverage. So those are the things that happen. That's what video coaches do. And I know it's boring for the fans to hear this stuff, but this is how teams manufacture opportunities. Some teams, if you're playing a hard man-to-man, they'll force you to go defend over in the corner. Other teams will say, if you're going to play a passive or a modified man-to-man, we're going to play you at the net. Because eventually, if there's bad communication, which there was on the first goal, on Zetterlund's goal, there's going to be a breakdown because nobody's communicating because they're playing more of a soft man-to-man. So every situation's different, every one.
All right, okay, so the Canadiens tied at 1, and then San Jose takes a lead by a score of 2-1. Graf puts a dipsy doodle on Owen Beck, Pierre, and this is, being a young player and some growing pains. He'll look back at this one and say, I didn't look too good on that one. Goes to Costin, to Sturm, it's 2-1. Suzuki wins a faceoff. Caufield gets it to Struble, to Hutson, back to Suzuki. He ties it at 2. The Montreal Canadiens captain, Pierre, had the first 2 goals of the hockey game. And with that assist on that play, Shane Gaumont, master control for Lane Hutson, if you can bring it up, became the third Canadiens rookie with 40 assists in a single season, following Chris Chelios, 55 and 84-85, Matt Naslund, 45 and 82-83. Also, Lane Hutson was involved in another stat. It seems like he does this, by the way, every third game he's in stats. He's breaking records. Fewest games to 40 assists in a season. Larry Murphy, Pierre, you coached him, 48.
I did.
Person, 50. Chelios, 53. Leach, 54. Lidstrom, 56. Hutson, 59. And by the way, speaking of Lidstrom and Hutson, Lane Hutson is the first defenseman, rookie defenseman, once again, to pick up 40-plus assists since Nick Lidstrom. Look at that. And Pierre, he keeps on being brought up in elite company. This doesn't happen by fluke, Pierre.
I've been telling you about him for a long time. I know that, and I know a lot of doubters were out there. I interviewed Billy Guerin with my partner, Jimmy Murphy, today, and we were asking Billy about different things. And the one thing he says, man, there were a lot of doubters about Lane Hutson just because of his size. You can't doubt him anymore. And I really, truly believe, Tony, if Lane keeps us up, and I believe he will, he's going past Matt Naslund. I think he could pass Chris Chelios on that assist list for Montreal as a rookie. I think he's got a legitimate chance to be on the U.S. Olympic team next year when they go to Cortina and Milan. I really believe that. And Billy didn't deny it at all. He didn't say, no chance. He didn't say that. We asked him about it. So, look, you know what I think of Lane. I've watched him for a long time. I'm a big fan. I think the Canadiens have done a lot of good work with him. They deserve a lot of credit. I didn't like at the beginning when they were holding him off the first power play, but I'll cede them that they were trying to protect the kid too. So I'll cede them that as a coaching staff. But look what's happened since, Tony. Look what's happened since.
Well, you know what? Let's bring up a picture. This was at the Beanpot, and the picture involves two players playing in tonight's hockey game. All right, there you have it. Macklin Celebrini and Lane Hutson. Pierre, they were at Boston University last year. 1 year ago, they're at Boston University. You're there all the time. You're watching their practices, and you're telling us, guys, these two players are really, really good. They're amazing. 1 year later, they're in the National Hockey League. They are amazing, and they are probably the top two candidates for Rookie of the Year right now. By the way, Michkov's on fire ever since the Four Nations face-off, ever since we came back. Yep. And the goalie in Calgary, there's four players right now that are up for that Calder. They're two of them, and they're probably the two front runners. It's a pretty amazing story, when you think about it.
It is. The one thing I'll say, Lane helped Macklin a lot on the power play last year because Lane could walk the line, give it back, and Macklin's a left shot player on the right side in the top of the circle, and he didn't miss very often. He was lethal. You know, not a lot of freshmen have won the Hobey Baker. Macklin Celebrini's one that has. Jack Eichel's another one that has. Paul Correa is another one that has. I mean, it's amazingly difficult to win that award. Here's what I'll say. I was there that night. My son played in the early game. And after that game was over, that picture you saw, that was the Beanpot Championship. BU beat BC.
Yeah.
But before the game started, I was with Marty St. Louis, Kent Hughes, their families, and Lane Hutson. The passion that he had to go cheer his former teammates on just reeked of leadership.
Oh, wow.
You could just sense the leadership quotient of this player. He's not just a great player, Tony. He's a lot like Macklin Celebrini. He's an elite leader. I don't think people realize, Tony, and I know you know because you come from a son who's a tremendous athlete and a soccer player, getting paid to play. You know how hard that is.
Not much.
I don't think people realize how hard it is for 18 or a 17-year-old like Celebrini was last year to play college hockey. There are very few people that can do that. There are very few 18-year-olds that can play in the NHL. These guys are to me, those are two amazing players.
You're right. And look, I have to tell you this, and Lane Hutson's amazing. Everybody knows that by now, all right? Lane Hutson turned 21 2 weeks ago. Macklin Celebrini is 18, and he's a June birthday.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my God.
So here's a question I have for
He's
you.
Unbelievable.
He's special. He's special. And Will Smith's not far removed either. Will Smith's a heck of a player, too.
Will Smith, by the way, and Lane Hutson share the same agent, for those who aren't aware. Right?
So,
Sean Caufield?
Yes. And so here's what I'll say to you. I wouldn't be surprised if Lane Hutson made the U.S. Olympic team next year, and I would be shocked if Macklin Celebrini wasn't on that Olympic team. Team Canada never makes the same mistake twice.
Wow.
And they made a mistake in 2006 when they didn't have Sidney Crosby on the team that went to Torino. I was there doing the games, and Tony, let me tell you, that was an unmitigated disaster for Team Canada. Unmitigated disaster.
Yeah.
They never made the same mistake again, and I don't think they'll make it this time. I think Macklin Celebrini will be, as much as they're talking about McDavid and McKinnon and all these guys, Macklin Celebrini will be on that team.
I'll take it a step further. I agree with Pierre McGuire that Lane Hutson's going to be on the U.S. Olympic team next year. And I'm going to take it a step further by saying he's going to have a better Olympics than Adam Fox had of Four Nations. He didn't play to his potential, Pierre.
Who, Adam? No, he's hurt right now, too, which is a significant loss for the Rangers. I watched them play live and in color in Pittsburgh on Sunday afternoon, and I know he scored a huge goal for them, but the rest of the game, he had a tough game. I don't think he's 100% healthy, Tony, and clearly he got hurt again, so he's not going to play for a while.
Okay, I wanted to bring this up later, but I have to bring it up now because you brought up the name Bill Guerin, the general manager of the Minnesota Wild, and he was on the eye test with you and Jimmy Murphy.
Today, yep.
Pierre LeBrun said this to RDS, if we can bring it up. Earlier this evening, Kent Hughes is telling NHL teams that they already have many draft picks and they won't trade Jake Evans and Yoel Armia just because they're both upcoming UFAs. He wants serious trade offers or he's willing to keep them on the Habs. So you got to say, I guess, pretty smart. Among the interested teams, Winnipeg, Toronto, Edmonton, New Jersey, and Minnesota. Pierre LeBrun talked about an injury to Joel Eriksson Ek. And I was taking a look at social media. 38 minutes ago, I know a man that you know very well. He's covered the Minnesota Wild for a very, very long time. Does it right now for The Athletic. Michael Russo. 38 minutes ago, he tweets, it's a no-brainer for Guerin to go after an Armia Evans PK tag team at this point. Like, enough is enough with this penalty kill, which I imagine are having a difficult night versus Utah thus far this evening, Pierre. That tweet, I mean, Kent Hughes has to be reading that tweet. And he's like, all right, Mike Russo, all right, keep on pouring it on. Let's go.
So here's the next thing you need to look at, though, if you're talking about that. Who would be the prospect that you would identify that would help the Canadiens the most in what they're trying to do? Because I would tell you this. Minnesota's farm team in Iowa is near the bottom. Okay, don't need to look at the computer for me to know that. And they don't have, outside of Charlie Stramel, who's playing at Michigan State right now, was a first-round pick. There's not a lot there where you say we got to have that guy. That guy's he's going to be better than Jake Evans, or that guy's going to be better than Yoel Armia. It doesn't mean they don't have guys, because they do. I can tell you. I know their roster really well. My son went to 2 of their development camps over the last 3 years. So I know their roster extremely well. But, and I spoke to Billy about this today on the air, they've had massive injury problems, Tony. I don't think people realize with Kirill Kaprizov, with Jared Spurgeon, you just talked about, obviously, Yoel Eriksson Ek, and he's going to be, according to Billy, he's week to week. When teams tell you week to week, that means more than 1 week. And it usually means more than 2 weeks.
And by the way, when Pierre asks the question, he wants you all at home and all of you watching on YouTube and on Facebook and whenever you're going to be listening to this, he wants you to use some reason and some logic as well, right? So don't start yelling right now, Ziv Bayum, because that's
You're
not
not
going to
getting
happen.
him.
Right? Correct.
Oh, no,
That's
please,
not going to happen, right? So we have to be logical here.
No,
Here's what logic tells me, Pierre.
Be realistic. Zeev William, he's okay. You know what I told you about Lane McDonald. I'm telling you right now, Zeev William, as soon as Denver season's over, is playing for Minnesota. They're not trading him. They're not trading Brock Faber. We know that. We know that. But it's important to state it, though, because you know what? Some people are probably going to yell out his name. He's been an unbelievable defender. It was unbelievable with the University of Denver, right? And we know that he's a winner. Everywhere he goes, he wins big hockey games. We saw him in the World Juniors with the United States. He was unbelievable. So now I'll say this. I don't know their prospects. Obviously, nowhere near as much as you do because you're one of the best, if not the best. I'll say this. If Hughes is trying to dangle both of them together, it leads me to believe that he'd love to get a first rounder for Jake Evans, but he doesn't believe he can by himself. So that's why he's trying to package Armia. Yeah.
So I say, if you can get multiple draft picks or first round draft pick, whatever it is, if you can't get a prospect, and I know people are going to say, yeah, but they have so many draft picks, they can't all play here. But it doesn't mean that you can't take some, stockpile them, and package them for someone who can help you down the road.
So I want to support Tony on that because he's 100% correct. And I'll use the New Jersey Devils example of goalies. Everybody said, well, they already got Marty Brodeur. They have Chris Terreri. Why do they keep drafting goalies? Because you turn Mike Dunham into something. You turn Chris Terreri into something. You have this ability. Everybody wants a goalie. So Lou always identified, and he was way ahead of his time on this. They always draft. You can go look it up. From the time he became the manager to the time he left New Jersey, they were always drafting a goalie somewhere in the draft. They always did. And they had one of the best goalie guys ever in Jacques Caron. They had one of the best guys. I'm telling you, he was amazing. So Tony's spot on. You got to accumulate assets. The more assets you have, the easier it is for you to make these kinds of trades that people are talking about.
Yeah. So based on what you've seen, you said this before on the Sick podcast, when I've asked you, is Owen Beck a replacement for Jake Evans? You said Owen Beck's a replacement for Christian Dvorak. Still the same answer if I ask you the same question?
Yeah, I think he's got more offense than Jake Evans.
Okay, so who's the replacement? So Dvorak's going to leave. We get the feeling. I think we agree on that?
Yes.
It's looking right now like Evans,
unless there's
an
amazing negotiation turnaround, I don't see him staying, which I'm surprised at. But listen, it takes two to tango in this stuff. And I don't know which side's not listening to the other side, but I personally don't think it should be that hard in negotiation, but I don't know what Jake's representatives are saying, and I don't know what the Canadiens are thinking. I just don't know.
I've heard from 3 sources that his representative is asking for a 5-year deal at $4 million a year.
No, well, so that's not happening. And I've told you this before. It can't be over 3.5, and it's got to start in the 2s. I'm not trying to belittle Jake Evans because you know what I think of him. I've been bragging about this kid since he was at Notre Dame, but realistically, those point totals are not what he has this year. They're not realistic in terms of where he fits on the roster.
Yeah. And Pierre, I'll say this though, like I get it, right? Like I wouldn't give him that money or that term either. I know you would give him the term, by the way.
I'd give him the term 100%.
You'd give him the term. I'm not willing to go there but everyone recognizes that he's a good player. There's no doubt about it. This is business, and it's his first chance of being an unrestricted free agent. It might be his last chance of being an unrestricted free agent. He doesn't know if he's going to sign a contract after that, if it's a 5-year deal. And he probably looks at it and says, you know what? I'm the 5th leading point getter on the Montreal Canadiens, and there's only 4 players who picked up more points than me. And his agent, I'm sure, is bringing that to the table and all that stuff. But Jake's devastated, by the way. Like Jake Evans, he's devastated. He wants to remain a Montreal Canadian. His wife wants to remain a Montreal Canadian. They love it here. They have friends here. They love the team. They love the teammates. He wants to stay here. But you're right. In the next week, NHL trade deadline is 1 week from tomorrow. Mm-hmm. If he goes back to his agent and says, listen, I really want to stay in Montreal. I've decided that, yeah, even though I'm an unrestricted free agent for the first time, you know what? Let's shave $1 million off, and then maybe that deal gets done, right? But right now, both sides think that they're headed towards a divorce.
I'm going to give you an example of what you just said that's so true, and I think it's a great point by you, Tony. Byron Dafoe, you can go Google it right now. Byron Dafoe was in Boston. He was a very good goalie, originally drafted by the Washington Capitals. And there was a lot of pressure on Byron and his agent to take huge money because he had the potential to be an unrestricted free agent, and he was having an unbelievable season. And Byron Dafoe at one point said, you know what? No, I like it here. I don't want to move from here. I'll take the Bruins offer. And I think he settled. You'd have to look it up. It's a lot of years ago. I think he settled at 3 years, $3 million a year. Now, back then, that was significant money. It still is. But I think that's what he took to stay in Boston. He took a huge haircut. And I know that his agent got a lot of poop from the NHLPA. And I think his agent got a lot of poop from other agents. But you know what? The guy was happy, and he enjoyed his career.
Pardon me. Start lining up your questions because we're going to take them right here on the Sick podcast in just a couple of minutes. Let me get some water, Pierre.
Yeah.
That's good water. It's from Italy, of course, naturally. All right, okay. Before we get to some of your questions, go all the way with Betway and get a free bet up to $200 if your first bet loses. Scan the QR code on the screen or click on the link in the details section to create an account. Redeem your welcome offer. Offers only available for new customers. Terms and conditions apply. Offer is not available in Ontario. Must be 18 years of age and older. And please play responsibly. All right, let's go back to the game sheet if we can before the questions come in. I think we left it at
Suzuki.
The 3-2 goal by San Jose, they lob a puck in the air, and Arbor Jackey's at the offensive blue line. It goes right over his head. It ends up being a 2-on-1, Pierre. But that finish by Will Smith, Pierre, this is a good hockey player. This is a player that was drafted, of course, 4th overall by the San Jose Sharks and their general manager, Mike Greer, who obviously did they both have the same alma mater? Did they go to the same school?
Will Smith, Boston College, and Mike Greer is a BU guy. Played there with Chris Drury.
Yeah.
Chris Drury won the Hobie Baker. But
was he at San Sebastian's before that?
Well, no, he was he's a national team development player. You're talking about Mike Greer. Mike Greer is a St. Sebastian's guy. Greer. But Mike was running youth programs in Boston before he was an assistant coach with New Jersey. One year with the Rangers. So he knew Will Smith really well. And Tim Burke does all the scouting. Who's actually drafted by the Montreal Expos, Tim Burke. Tim Burke does all the scouting for the San Jose Sharks in the Boston area, as does Tommy Fitzgerald's brother, Scott. So they had all the goods on Will Smith. They knew everything.
The year of that draft, of course, a lot of people were identifying Will Smith for many reasons, right? A centerman, an offensive player. The Canadiens were looking for both, represented by Cortex Management Group, right? The former firm that Kent Hughes was a part of, represented by Sean Coffey, a good friend of Kent Hughes, and everyone just thought it was going to work. But he goes 4th, and the Canadiens end up going with David Reinbacher 5th, who, by the way, had a productive game for the Laval Rocket yesterday in a 5-4 win. It was a matinee game in Toronto, and David Reinbacher finished the night as a +3. The Nua goal, we talked about it before. It's a great play. Owen Beck, Liney. It was a tic-tac-toe play, all with in front of the crease, and that ties it at 3. And now, Pierre, the game-winning goal. They go to overtime, and this is a 2-on-1 for the San Jose Sharks, and Montembeault makes a huge stop. And instead of covering the puck, he plays it right away to Suzuki, who finds Caufield with a stretch pass. Caufield's looking. He thinks probably Suzuki, is he going to help me out here? Maybe he looks a little bit tired. He sees Macklin Celebrini. He says, you know what, forward on forward, I'm going to try and take him between the legs. Puts the puck between his legs. Between his own legs, Caufield does, goes around them, puts the puck up and over Georgiev. What a goal.
Yeah, it's a highlight reel goal. Bia played all over the United States and Canada for sure, and probably around the hockey world. Cole's got 28 now, I think, Tony, if I remember correctly.
He does have 28.
28, yeah.
Yeah.
He's had an amazing season. Obviously, anybody that doubts him is wrong. He always wants to prove people wrong. I think there's a legitimate chance he can get over 35 this year, maybe more. Yeah, the Canadiens are really starting to get in the right position, Tony. I'm encouraged. I know people always say, "Oh, they got to make the playoff." They're going to be relevant for a long time this playoff season. I don't know if they're going to make it or not, but they're going to be relevant, which is what they wanted to accomplish this year. It's exactly what they wanted to accomplish.
Pierre, I've heard people say that if the Canadiens win the Stanley Cup one day, Cole Caufield will not be on their first line. And maybe they're right. But Marchessault was on Vegas' first line. Scored 40 goals. People don't think that Cole Caufield's going to be a 40-goal scorer going forward. He's got 28 goals in 59 games as a 24-year-old with 264 games under his belt. This guy is nowhere near his prime. And it baffles me that when people talk trades for the Montreal Canadiens, a lot of people bring up his name. Now, I'm not here to tell you that he's an untouchable, but I'm here to tell you that Cole Caufield is going to score 35-plus goals for the next 4, 5, 6 seasons of the National Hockey League, and those players don't grow on trees, Pierre.
So here's what I'd like you to do. We don't rehearse, Tony. I have no notes in front of me. I'm going off what you're saying.
I only have this.
Okay. Good for you. Tony, do you remember the name Andy McDonald?
Yes.
He was a first-line player in 2007 when the Anaheim Ducks won the Stanley Cup. He's about the same size as Cole Caufield. Go look at his numbers.
Very underrated, Andy McDonald as a player.
He was a Colgate University guy, and he was vastly underrated. Not nearly as big as Bobby McMahon, who's a Colgate University guy.
Yeah.
So small guys have played relevant roles, Tony. There was a guy that played for Montreal, if I remember correctly, from Sweden.
Mats Naslund.
Part of Stanley Cup winning teams. Mats Naslund.
From Timrå, Sweden, with the Torsbo hockey stick.
How was he in the Jofa helmet? How was he, Tony?
Yeah, not bad. He had, once upon a time, he had over 40 goals and 110 points. He's the last Montreal Canadian to hit.
I don't know why people are going after Cole. So the one thing I would say for Montreal, because of Laine's shot and because of Suzuki's playmaking and because of Lane Hutson, I would play Cole Caufield 100% in the bumper position. Like not 50%, not 30%, 100%. Make people adjust to him being in the bumper position.
You know what I can't wait for, Pierre?
What's that?
Next year, Demidov's coming. Yep. Who, by the way, I'd love to get your opinion on this.
No shifts today. Good job.
They sat him on the bench the entire game. He's the leading point getter on the team.
I know. Well, no. So I'm going to tell you something. This has happened before, but the one that I have is maybe the most egregious ever. Alex Stoyanov was traded for Marcus Naslund, Vancouver to Pittsburgh.
What a steal.
And for Vancouver, for sure. Alex Stoyanov played in one of the longest games in NHL playoff history. It never got registered as a game played because he didn't get any shifts. Zero shifts.
Oh, that's terrible.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
That's terrible.
I can't believe. I said to our friend Mitch Melnick today, I said, Mitch, if I were the Canadiens, Nicky Bobroff, who is an amazingly important asset for the Montreal Canadiens, amazingly important. He's really good. Trust me on this. I've known Nicky a long time.
Who was there about a month and a half ago in Russia, along with Vinny Lecavalier and Ken Hughes, when the Canadiens went to visit Ska and Demidov and met with his coach Rodenberg. Yes.
The number one thing I would have called Nicky, whether he's in Boston doing prep school tournaments today, or whether he's in Montreal watching the team, or whether he was in Laval or Toronto, wherever they were playing Toronto, I think yesterday. I tell him, you're getting on the late flight, connect through London, connect through Stockholm, connect through Helsinki. It doesn't matter. You're going to St. Petersburg. You're flying tonight, and you're going to find out what the heck's going on.
And this time, bring some maple syrup, because you probably didn't bring a gift last time, and they're offended.
Tony,
make sure you pick it up at the duty free at the airport.
I'm going to say this. I've been there, that country, a lot. I have so much respect for the people there. I don't deal with their leaders. I deal with their people. Their people are fantastic people. They're honorable, good people. They can't. How do you expect them to trust anybody? They've been lied to their entire lives. I'm just telling you, I don't know what's going on there, but that never should have happened with Demidov. No way. No way.
It's discouraging that it happened, not only because he's their best point getter, but it's discouraging that it happened after what looked like a very productive meeting between his coach and the Montreal Canadiens brass.
That's why I'm saying. So something else. That's why I want, and Nicky speaks the language. That's why I want Nicky over there.
Can it be that, and I shouldn't even speculate. I don't want to do that, but can it be that in some way, shape, or form, he didn't handle himself professionally or the way that he expected him to, and they did it to teach him a lesson and made the Montreal Canadiens aware that they were going to do it? Does that kind of communication take place? Like to say, hey, by the way, we want to let you know this kid did this. We want to teach him a lesson. He's going to sit on the bench the whole game today.
So I have actually done that when I was coaching college players that were drafted by NHL teams. I haven't done a lot, but I've done it a couple times where I'd say, look, we're going to reduce his ice time, and here's why. And it's for what you just talked about. They're not all the same. Some miss practice, miss a meeting, missed a curfew, did something silly on campus, didn't go to a class, whatever. It doesn't matter. They're all different. That could have happened. I don't know, and that's why I don't want to speculate.
I hear you.
But the one thing I would do, no matter what, because he's such a valuable asset to the organization, I would send Nicky Bobroff there and find out one way or the other what the heck happened.
Wow.
Constant communication is really important. It's nothing to go. I mean, I know people say, oh, come on, it's 10 hours in the air and all this thing. So what? When you're a scout and you're doing that's nothing. That's part of your job. Just go do it. And I don't think Nicky would back off of it anyways.
Yeah, and you know what? If Bobroff shows up there and he meets with Demidov, I would imagine that would be very, very appreciated by the young man who probably has got to be livid that he didn't play a second. And to see the Montreal Canadiens brass show up and say, hey, by the way, we're here to support what's going on. Maybe we can help you, this, that, whatever. That would be pretty good.
Well, that's what I'm telling you. That's the number one thing I would do. I'm just telling you, 100%. This guy's too valuable an asset, way too valuable.
Okay, speaking of not playing, do you know that there's a Montreal Canadiens player that didn't play the entire third period tonight?
I don't.
And I will let you know, Arbor Xhekaj didn't play in the third period. Remember that play that I told you about?
You were just talking about 100%, the aerial pass. Yep.
That went over his head. He committed at the offensive blue line.
Yep.
Marty St. Louis was asked about it at the end of the game, and he said the plan was not to keep him on the bench the whole period. But at the time where he was going to put him out there on the ice, the Canadiens had a two-man advantage on the power play. And at one point, he said he thought that if he was going to throw him back out there after being cold for so long, he was going to put him in a bad spot. So he decided not to put him back. That's what Marty St. Louis said to media after the game.
Well, sometimes you do that. Look, I did that to Gordie Roberts in the Stanley Cup final in the first period.
Mm-hmm.
I did. I went right up to him. I said, Gordie, you just don't have it tonight. And he was mad at me. And at the end of the game, he came right up to me and he said, you were right and I was wrong, and I apologize. We won the cup that night. And I said, you don't have to apologize to me. I love your passion. I'll never, ever not love your passion to play. So sometimes coaches do that.
And you know what? I believe that that's one of the reasons why he did it. I also believe that he didn't put him out there for a while because he made a mistake on what was the 3-2 go-ahead goal for the San Jose Sharks. And you can tell that Xhekaj was really upset with himself right after the play because he just
called it.
No, on the ice. Yeah,
you definitely called it. 100%. Yeah, you called that.
Bittt TV, they launched their new Ultra Lager. Unfortunately, I didn't call that because I would have loved to have been in on that one for them because they're selling like hotcakes. It's a refreshing, thirst-quenching beer, perfect for the chilly winter days. Only 90 calories, 2 grams of carbs, 4% ABV per can. Available in a pack of 6 and 12 in grocery stores all around the province of Quebec. It's ultra light, ultra refreshing. Why don't we take some questions, Pierre, and we'll probably take about 10 questions, and that'll be it for tonight. Let's 100%. Go. Jacob Perez says, Tony Pierre, do you think Montreal could get Washington's third rounder from 2024? Ilya Protas, 40-plus goals in the OHL in exchange for Jake Evans.
No
Chance.
No
chance.
No. Sorry. I don't want to be Debbie Downer, but that's not happening. Sorry.
No, and look, Pierre, he's huge, right? Like he's 6'6", like 2,000 pounds. Like he is absolutely huge, guys. He's got with all due respect to the gentleman who asked the question, he's got 23 goals and 50 points in 59 games.
It's his brother, though, Tony. It's not the same guy.
Oh, pardon me. You're right. Yeah.
But no, it doesn't matter. That deal's not happening anymore.
No, I was going with Alexei Protas. Okay.
It's okay. That's still not happening.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
Good question. It's a fair. Hey, you know what? It's a fair one, but I don't see that happening.
Yeah. He's going. That's right. He's going with his younger brother who played for.
Can I just tell you why I don't think
for Windsor? Yeah. Tell me why. Yeah.
Well,
by the way, he's as big as his brother, right?
Yeah.
They're both
he's a huge kid.
He's not as thick, but he's a tower.
Yeah, here's why. Washington's got the best, and no disrespect meant to Jake. They got the best fourth center in the NHL, Nick Dowd. That's why that's not happening. They don't need Jake Evans. They got Nick Dowd. That's why I was so quick. I'm like, no, that's not happening. They can't take two fourth centers.
The Capitals have done a really good job of drafting over the last several years, eh?
So here are the guys that did it. Ross Mahoney's their chief scout. Steve Bowman runs Ontario. And they got a guy named Dan Brooks that does the whole world on free agency. So their last 2 years in Hershey, which is their farm team, they won the Calder Cup. They got the best developers of talent. They got the best evaluators. Those three guys in particular, are really good.
I think Cole Hutson has scored one of the 3 or 4 nicest individual goals that I've seen in all of hockey in the last week.
So, yeah, that's crazy. He's a second-round pick. So, Bowman does Ontario, the national team development programs in the U.S. Ross Mahoney does the Prairies and the Western Hockey League. And Dan Brooks does the whole world with free agents. And they crush it.
They're good.
Yeah, they're good.
I know you're not going to put anyone down here, but for a long time we talked about the Tampa Bay Lightning that probably scouted as good or better than anybody else.
Al Murray was the guy that did all that stuff. Yeah,
we talked about Hacken Anderson with Detroit drafting all the best players to come out of Sweden.
Still there.
The top 3 organizations in terms of scouting right now in the National Hockey League.
That's a hard one for me to do cold. I'd have to really do a breakdown. I don't like to just feed you cold. I don't want to ever lie to you or your listeners.
You know who I think does an amazing job? Martin Madden Jr. You can correct me.
He's in Anaheim. Martin Madden Jr. is in Anaheim.
Yeah.
Here's what they've done. They've done a lot of really good stuff. Like Leo Carlson was a great pick. Doesn't mean that he's better than Adam Fantilli, but they took him ahead of Fantilli where it wasn't sexy to do that. You know, you look at Minchikov on defense. You can go down the line with their guy. They've done a nice job.
McTavish,
Mason. I was in Ottawa when that draft went down. That's the guy we wanted to take. They took him before. You know, we wanted to take England too. You know, there were a lot. Ian Moore is a captain at Harvard. He's, a draft pick. Henry Thrun, who you saw play tonight.
Yes.
He was originally an Anaheim Duck draft pick. He got traded because his agent, Matt Cater, knew that he had no chance of being in every top 6 guy in Anaheim. So I can chapter and verse you on this. Martin Madden Jr. has done a great job. The other team that's done a tremendous job is LA. The LA Kings have done a very good job when it comes to amateur scouting.
Let's take another question. Heavy Metal Scrapper. Pierre, why does Marty St. Louis bench Arbor for one mistake and doesn't ever discipline Mike Matheson when he makes multiple mistakes?
Because one guy's almost 30 years of age and the other guy's starting his career, and that's just, there's a pecking order. And Mike gets more minutes. There's more pressure on Mike to make certain plays, but it's a fair question. I've been in Marty's shoes. I've had young players who I were pretty hard on. Michael Nylander, Patrick Poulin, Jeff Sanderson, A lot of them have been pretty hard.
And by the way, and I'm not saying this to protect Mike Matheson by no means, but if Mike Matheson makes multiple mistakes, it's also because he plays 25 minutes a game and he goes up against other teams' first lines. I mean,
that's what.
And if Marty's saying the way he doesn't punish him, it's also because Marty believes that if Mike Matheson makes a couple of mistakes, he can bounce back. Yeah. But he probably believes that if Arbor Jackeye makes a bad mistake, he's probably having a bad game and it might lead to another one. That's just what it is, right? That's
very fair.
Next. JP Moutinho. What center would Pierre want with Demidov and Laine as winger? Well, Pierre can give me a name, but doesn't mean that player is going to be available.
Yeah, I was going to say, can I get Dylan Larkin?
He's really good.
He's really good. That's the guy I'd want with those two guys, by the way, because Larkin would push the pace unbelievably well. Just so you know, Tony.
Yeah, but Laine wouldn't be able to keep up. But then again, he could be the guy trailing.
Coming late. I want him Brendan Shanahan.
You want him late? Yeah, I got it.
I want him Brendan Shanahaning it. Okay.
I got it. Yeah.
That's what I want. Look at all the goals Shanahan scored over the course of his career. He's always a late guy. That's what I want with Laine. Be the late guy. You don't have to be the early guy. Be the late guy.
Yeah. Dylan Larkin's really good.
What's the one thing Laine and Shanahan have in common? Well, there's two things. One, they're both really big, and they're freaking right-hand shots that can pile drive pucks on.
Yeah. Let's go to our producer Shane, rightfully so. When we talked about Martin Madden Jr., also brought up Jackson Lacombe.
Yeah, he's a great player out of the University of Minnesota. Good player. I saw him play a ton. A good player.
Yeah. Okay, back to some questions.
Yeah.
Question for Pierre. Would you rather take a prospect already picked or a late first-round draft pick?
In this draft?
I guess, yeah.
I'd rather have a prospect already picked.
Oh, really, eh?
Mm-hmm.
A lot, just to accelerate it, right?
Well, no, because late first-round pick in this draft is not going to equate to where you want it to be.
Yeah. More questions.
I don't know what Craig Button's told you, but the first 10 picks in this draft are very good.
Yeah.
And after that, it diminishes pretty quick. You're not going to get instantaneous return on your pick.
There's a couple of kids in the queue that are drawing attention, huh?
Yeah, there are. Well, one of them is the kid from St. Hyacinth. His brother was drafted by Philadelphia. I apologize.
You're talking about Caleb Denvoyer.
Elliot Denvoyer is the brother. It's this
Caleb Denvoyer.
Yeah, he's a good player. Very good.
He plays for the Moncton Wildcats. 76 points in 49 games thus far this season.
I don't know if you'd ever get the tape. His dad played with Marty Brodeur in St. Hyacinth. Norman Flynn was the coach. His father was a tough guy. Let me tell you. I saw his dad play a lot. Oh yeah, his dad was a tough guy.
Yeah.
Tough. Yep.
Another question. If Armia leaves, who replaces him?
I don't know.
You know who's
Florian Jackeye?
I was just going to say Florian Jackeye is really impressing.
Probably.
Pierre.
I mean, so here's the thing. That's why I say I don't know. I think the Canadiens are going to put a priority, Tony, on what happens in Laval this year. They need to go on an extended run to get these guys games, especially if they turn Jacob Fowler pro, which I believe they will. So I don't know how much they want to mess with the integrity of the roster down in the American Hockey League. They've had an amazing year under Pascal Vincent. And by the way, Tony, I got to say this. I just spent 5 days with Mark Recchi at Mario Lemieux's fantasy camp.
Yeah.
And Mark worked with Pascal Vincent last year in Columbus. I've never seen a guy, especially a Hall of Famer like that, so proud to say he worked with a coach and how much he cared about Pascal Vincent. I coached Mark. And we're good friends, and he just thinks the world of the guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he really, really does. He thinks he's fantastic.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really awesome. Yeah, I had a chance to bump into Mark Recchi a couple of years ago in South Florida. Walked into a cafe, was having a coffee, sitting down. Who walks in? Mark Recchi. And looks at me, and we start talking, and I knew how to get to him right away. What did I do? I brought up Pierre McGuire's name.
Oh, you're too nice. How did it go?
It went extremely well. We stayed talking there for a couple of hours, and he it was really amazing.
He and I had a good run together, and we've been pretty much lifelong friends.
Well, I'll tell you something you already know, but he thinks the world of you. Like, I know you already know
he knows what I think of him, too. So
yeah. Good. Okay, a couple more questions. Joe Russo says, hi, Pierre. Do you think Reinbacher could be that shutdown defenseman that you talked about?
I do. So it just comes down to maturity. It's a great question by Joe. I just think it comes down to strength, Tony, to do that job. Like, I can just tell you this with pure confidence. Chris Pronger could do that as a 19-year-old. Not everybody's Chris Pronger, so it takes a little more time physically for him to be ready. So I would say in the next couple of years, I think he could mature into that. I do. I believe he could.
I let everyone know a couple of days ago when Pierre was on with Max that Canuck is having a huge warehouse sale. It's going to take place this Saturday between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. and Sunday between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. on men's winter jackets, women's winter jackets, anywhere between 0 degrees and minus 35s, accessories like toques, hats, mittens at 2328 Cohen Street in Montreal. I'm not so sure we have the video, Shane Gilmore, Master Control, do we? Look at this. This is exactly what the warehouse sale is going to look at, okay? So there are hundreds and hundreds of jackets there and accessories. Very, very, very high-end. It is Canuck. And I got fitted in a couple of days ago, and there we go. And so did Alex Carrier, and so did David Savard. And if Pierre comes into town next week, we're going to fit him in some Canucks jackets.
Pierre's coming into town next week, and I'm going, but I'm going to pay.
All right.
That stuff looks awesome.
It absolutely awesome for sure, 100%. All right, Pierre. Okay, last question of the night, and then we'll call it good night.
Okay.
Let's make it a good one. Hi, Pierre. How many good veterans? Good question, this one. Do you need on a rebuilding team? Do you keep some, even though it means sacrificing the potential development of young players still in the AHL? Evans, Dvorak, Savard.
You need to have a solid core of veteran players. I don't want to put a finite number on it, but you need to have a solid. I'll just tell you this. I've always said this to people. I just spent, like I said, 5 days in Pittsburgh with our championship players and at a fantasy camp. Brian Trottier was a guy that made our team different in 91 and 92. Brian was. And Brian would tell you he was our third center, and some nights he was our fourth center. But Brian's leadership, Brian's mentality, Brian taught everybody in our organization how to win. Everybody except for Scotty Bowman, who already knew how to win. Bob Johnson had never won. Craig had never won. None of us had ever won. But Brian had. And they make a difference. And that's why we went out. Scotty did this with Craig. We got Larry Murphy. We got Peter Taglianetti. We got Gordy Roberts. We got Ronnie Francis. We got Ulf Samuelson. We got all these older guys that knew how to play. And it taught our young guys like Yarmer Yager and Paul Stanton and Jimmy Pack how to win. Mark Recchi, Kevin Stevens. Those were young guys. They were 20 and 21 years old. And we had these older guys that taught them how to win. It was phenomenal to watch. It really was.
Most overtime goals in Montreal Canadiens history. Max Pacioretty and the late Howie Morenz with 10. The late Aurel Joliat with 9. Guess who's got 8 now? Cole Caufield. Pretty cool, huh?
Wow.
Pierre, by the way, we brought up David Savard's name, and I got something for you. Savard also will be an unrestricted free agent at the end of the year. If he has his wish, if he's got any say on it.
Finish in Montreal.
He would rather finish the season in Montreal than get dealt.
Yep.
All right. We'll end with Kirby Dach. The Canadiens let everyone know earlier today that they're going to have an update on him tomorrow. Pierre, I heard something a couple of days ago, and I didn't say anything because I heard that, Kirby Dach's injury, it's not looking good. And I didn't say anything because at one point I was told the same thing about Patrick Liney's injury because Patrick Liney was told by the team doctor, you're going to need to get operated and your season is likely over. They told that to Patrick Liney back in the day, and they told that to Jeff Gordon and Kent Hughes and all the players. They told that to everyone. They were devastated in the organization. But he went for a second opinion, and then he went for a third opinion. And the third doctor he went to see said, I don't think you need to get operated. I think you can end up playing with a proper rehabilitation. I think you can be back on the ice in less than 3 months. And guess what? That's the path he chose, and so far it's worked out. The fact that they're going to wait to give another update leads me to believe that they didn't get good news on the first opinion for Kirby Dach, and they probably seeked out a second or third opinion.
These are hard. These are hard things to deal with. They're really hard, Tony, as you know, to deal with.
Yeah.
I don't know. And I learned a long time ago from Dick Ebersol and Sam Flood at NBC Sports, unless you have a medical degree, you shouldn't be speculating on injuries. So I'm not going to even try to go down that road. I don't know.
We'll find out tomorrow for sure, Pierre, because that's what the Montreal Canadiens told us. Thanks so much for doing this again, Pierre. Have a great night. It's the Canadiens and the Buffalo Sabres. Saturday night in Buffalo, Monday back in Montreal. Huge games, Pierre. And we promised that we would give you an updated standings so you know where your Montreal Canadiens stand. Let's take a look at the wild card spot in the East. Detroit has the first spot with 66. Columbus has the second spot with 66. Detroit has one more win. The Rangers with 62. The Senators with 62. The Bruins with 62. And the Canadiens with 61. The Canadiens are 5 points behind Columbus. They played the same amount of games. The Montreal Canadiens have now won 3 straight hockey games, and it looks like the break for the Four Nations face-off was very beneficial to this team. Hopefully it continues, and the Montreal Canadiens could be exactly where they want to be at season's end, which was in the mix, and why not, even in the playoffs. Pierre, we'll talk to you again on Monday night.
Monday night. Can't wait, Tony. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you.
You too, Pierre. 10 p.m. Eastern on Monday night. In the meantime, I will let you know that, by the way, you don't have to wait for 10 p.m. for me, because tomorrow I'm going to be on twice. As you know, on Fridays, we bring you a bonus show en français, and we go at 2 p.m. live. I'll bring you that one. And at 10 p.m. live, usually Matt O'Han. Matt's going to be running a marathon this weekend in New Hampshire. And guess who's taking his place? Yeah, me. Short weekend, but it's okay when you're talking Habs. Thanks for watching, everyone. Leave us a 5-star review on Apple. It's our way of feeling the love. To all of our sponsors, thank you for the support. We can't do it without you. Have a great night, everyone. I'll be back tomorrow.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow The Sick Podcast with Tony Marinaro on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts. The Sick Podcast is brought to you by Energy Transportation Group, driven to be different. Tibi, embrace your true nature. And Playground, your premier gaming destination.